Hello, my dear Chris. Thank you very much for being here today with us at Modern Revenue Architects. Chris Salem, Business Accelerator Strategist. If you can let us know, and that you have a lot of things going on under your belt, speaking, results driven, what have you. So there's a lot that we can talk about today. So if you can let us know your journey, your story first, and then we can be jumping around the processes and the things that you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, Louis, thank you for having me here on your show. I mean, all this starts back 35 years ago. I've been in the workplace now for 35 years, since 1990. So I've been doing this a long time. And, a lot of the things that I do are based upon experience. I'm really a big proponent of experience. Whether if things go right or things don't go right, it's all experience one way or the other. And I've learned over the years the things that have worked for me, the things that haven't, both in businesses that I built from the ground up to coming into businesses where I've been asked to scale, whatever the case may be. I love to apply the things that I've learned over the years when working with other businesses, whether if it's a startup or an existing business that's looking to go from where they are to that next level. It does not matter. And one of the things that I learned early in my career is that many times businesses tend to look for the shortcuts. They look for the easy route to kind of put a Band-Aid on things to manage the problem. I never bought into that philosophy. Matter of fact, I never even like to put my name next to something like that. For me, I see challenges, obstacles, and problems in any kind of business as an opportunity, because without them, we can't become creative, innovative, and grow. So the way I approach things is from a holistic standpoint. I look at what is the root cause to the challenge? And then by identifying that, how can we make that better or eliminate it, and then come up with an opportunity from it to now turn it into a result. So I'm very systematic in how I go about doing things, but I believe in doing everything from a foundational level. And for me, that's always how we think, how we communicate, and then from there, what we build up upon that. I call that emotional intelligence. So I always incorporated emotional intelligence as the foundation to anything that you're going to do in a business to take it from where you are to where you want to be.
Fantastic. And I think that can take into a segue in which we could talk about the strategies in your book, Master Your Inner Critic. As you were saying, we need to find the root cause. And obviously on that book, you step into the non-shortcut methodology of finding why, like all the whys, why, like the fear and the root cause. I think that's a keyword that could be very well repeated, like 30 times in your page around the books. So very aligned with that philosophy. So I'm curious to see if you could give us a little bit more around the book and the non-shortcut methodology of trying to do something super logic, which is okay. Let's find the root cause and all the whys, and some probably takeaways for someone that is watching right now to take action. And we will put the link of the book obviously in the episode.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to clarify for the listeners, the book, Master Your Inner Critic, Resolve the Root Cause, Create Prosperity, is really about addressing the individual, the person itself. Then it can be a team, but it wasn't necessarily written for team development or business acceleration. It was more written at an individual level. What is holding back that individual? And what we don't realize, why a lot of people maybe don't perform to certain levels as, say, other people. Well, a lot of times we think it's a lack of experience, or it's, usually comes down to that. And so they get those people trained, they give them resources, and then yet nothing really changes. Well, the reason why is because they don't address the individual at a deeper level. Many times you got people operating from different types of confidence levels, self-esteem levels. So no matter what amount of training and resources you provide for them, it really is not going to move the needle if you're not addressing the confidence and self-esteem level. This is why the 80-20 rule always sticks. Why 80% of the results in any organization are usually produced by less than 20% of your top performers, and why the 80% of your team is producing less than 20% of the results. That is the reason. A lot of times it's the self-limiting beliefs. Often they come from your childhood. And these are things, people are just a byproduct of their upbringing, their environment, how they were raised. And many times we're going to be growing up in households where we pick up things that are negative, positive, a combination of both. It's those limiting beliefs, although, are the ones that if they stick with us, have a huge impact negatively on how we communicate to ourselves and others, how we behave, our attitude when we see things happening to us as a victim, or using excuses or deflecting how we feel onto others, not seeing it as an opportunity, and how they react through emotions rather than respond to people in situations, and the level of action they take. Why a lot of people get caught up in busyness, but yet the things are not really relevant to what's really important. It's a form of procrastination. So until we can really address these self-limited beliefs on an individual basis, getting to the root cause of them and finding now ways that we can release them to now build up that confidence, fill up their cups. Now, if you do that with one person and then another and then another, and now you build a team around that, you're going to create a more interdependent, highly productive workforce versus a codependent, in this case, inconsistent workforce. So these are the things that, even though the book doesn't get into the work-related stuff, I have a new book coming out early next year, called The EQ Advantage, and how that's going to address all those areas. But nonetheless, the book was designed to help people recognize what's keeping them stuck. It's not the next training of like how they can become better at something. That's all good. But if you don't build that foundation first to get out of your self-limiting beliefs, all that other stuff is really going to go nowhere until you address it. So that's the point I was looking to make across through Master Your Inner Critic, Resolve to Cause Great Prosperity, because it also outlines my journey and how I went from being codependent, angry, deflecting how I felt onto others, always blaming somebody else if something didn't work out, all of the above, how I was able to shift away from that to now where I can be interdependent, owning my role and duties, owning my development, being accountable, and thus over time performing at a higher level.
Yeah, I totally agree. For our, let's say a company to thrive, you would have to have a 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneur behind it. So if that 7-figure entrepreneur or 8, 9-figure doesn't level up to the game that it needs, the foundations are not going to make that company move forward. So one thing is the limiting beliefs, the whys, the root causes, the not blaming others, so like you're saying, and then we can jump into the technical and the strategy and all the things that a company has to accommodate for thriving as well. So totally agree. And the 80-20% rule obviously comes into play. And in the brink of the other thing that I was going to ask, I was very curious about the EQ advantage, which is very well prominently mentioned over the course of the information properties that you have around. I was going to ask you, and you already mentioned that you're coming out with a book being published next year. So is it possible for you to talk about what is the EQ, emotional intelligence?
Sure.
I guess. And take it away.
Well, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, where you are and how you now respond to other people in situations. But that's got to start with yourself. How do you respond to yourself? What are the things that are working for you? What are the things not working for you? What are you really good at and what you really are not good at? See, the reality is a lot of times if we're going to build our self-esteem and confidence, it's got to start with emotional intelligence, you. And one of the things that you can learn through emotional intelligence is the secret of knowing what you can control and what you can't control. Most people operate from fear, anxiety, frustration, overwhelmness because they're caught up in the control they can't control. So what can you not control? Well, there's many things. They can often fall into two major buckets. That is other people and situations. You clearly can't control other people and situations. And as long as you get caught up in other people and situations, and those are usually defined as expectations tied to outcomes, you're always going to get caught up in the control you can't control. And how you will operate from is from stress, anxiety, fear, overwhelmness, frustration, and over time, eventually anger. Although there are things that we can control. And one major bucket where that falls into is you. You can control you. You can't control another person or a situation in itself entirely, but you can control you. You can control the communication to yourself and other people. And for effective communication to take hold, to be assertive rather than passive aggressive, that starts with how you communicate to yourself. If you're communicating from your self-limiting beliefs, well, guess what? You're communicating from your inner critic, and that is oftentimes coming across to other people in a passive and or an aggressive way. Both those are codependent styles of communication, and they don't build connection. They don't build rapport and trust, and oftentimes lead to more issues like conflict. And these are the very things that are getting in the way at any type of business. I don't care if it's a solopreneur or if it's a Fortune 500 company. But when we can learn now to communicate in an assertive way, specific, clear, and concise, chunking our statements, being transparent of what we're good at, what we're not good at, knowing that we can't control somebody else's communication and how they perceive what we said. So we have to own the responsibility as the sender or the receiver to be as specific, clear, and concise, asking open-ended questions, not for yes or no responses, but to get more substance. So as we get more information, we can lower the room for assumption and speculation, which is the cancer to any type of communication, because most decisions based on communication are from assumptions and speculation. And that's why expectations are falling through the cracks. When we can be specific, clear, and concise as the sender and or the receiver of the communication, we can be assertive, and we can make sure that assumption and speculation is very low to none to ensure we are focused on what we're trying to get accomplished. We shift away from attaching ourselves to the expectation of the outcome to now connecting with intentions. We can control our intentions. We can't control expectations. When we can trust the process and focus on what we can control with those intentions and trust the process, it will eventually lead to those results, not getting tied to the results itself. Fear is reduced in the moment. Fear only escalates when we're in the past and the future, operating from those self-limited beliefs. So when you can communicate more effectively, assertively, rather than passive aggressive, it raises the bar. Behavior, we can control that. Is your behavior in alignment with your communication? Is it assertive or passive aggressive? I'm a recovering passive aggressive. I was a passive communicator. I was a pleaser and enabler because I had a strong need for validation growing up that I didn't get from my father. So I brought that into my adult life, into the workplace. And my behavior was aggressive. So my behavior would always contradict my passive communication. That was often offsetting and confusing to people and didn't build rapport and trust. Attitude, you can control that. It's either happening for you or happening to you. If it's happening for you, you see the challenge, obstacles, setbacks as opportunities to become results. If it's happening to you, you're the victim. You use excuses to deflect how you feel. Emotions, how you respond versus react to people in situations beyond your control. If you're reacting from anger and you're angry, that's not going to help the situation. But if you're angry, that's okay. A negative emotion is simply your mind and body sharing with you have something unresolved. Although I don't have to react from it. I can take a breath. I can remove myself for 10 minutes. I can sleep on it before I respond from a secondary emotion by email or verbally to someone or other people. And finally, my action. Am I laser focused on the priorities that truly matter, that are important and urgent to move important tasks forward? Or am I caught up in things that can be delegated or things that are not even relevant to what's important? And now I'm procrastinating. When we can shift our way of thinking from intentions, away from expectations in the moment, focusing on you and what you can control and letting go of what you can't control, which is the same 5 things I shared in other people and situations, that's what builds the foundation for emotional intelligence to now become a better communicator, a doer, someone that's going to walk the talk, and someone's confidence and self-esteem that's going to be a byproduct in terms of how it escalates as a result of it.
And when it's very interesting to read how Chris Salem found that he had to change something and changed it himself. So obviously you make other people be better. Like if I had to say to a 5-year-old, what does Chris does? He makes people become a better person. So how would you go about when you're coaching someone? Because one of the hardest things to do is to crack the egg. I would say make someone realize, okay, yeah, maybe that how I react is not the best way to do it, and I need to take a break and I need to breathe it out, and I'm not responding properly, whatever. How do you go about to crack that egg, and how did you found yourself? Were you were coached, or you with your own methodologies, or reading books, or how did you recover from the negative into the positive?
Well, a good question. It was a combination of both. I mean, these are things that I learned. I started this process 26 years ago. Yeah. So it took me a good 3 years to overcome my self-limiting beliefs, to now replace them with better habits and disciplines that now help to really rewire the way I think, to think from intentions in the moment, not operating in the past and the future from fear and anxiety like I used to, and then reacting rather than responding. So it was my own journey to do that, and then to keep up with certain disciplines that would keep my mind again in that frame of thinking. It's not something I did after 3 years and said, "Oh, okay, I've cured. I'm in a better place, and I don't have to do that anymore." No, I do it every day because it can easily go back to where you are. So when people are disciplined and consistent to think differently, to now communicate differently, to make sure that behavior is in alignment with that, to change their attitude, it's happening for you, not to you, to know how to respond versus react to situations and other people, and take massive action. Those are the 5 things within yourself that can turn, anything, a molehill into a mountain, up to climb a mountain to accomplish whatever is important to you. Now, when other people are doing the same thing, I mean, think now what you can do together as a team. But you can't control another person. So the best thing that you can do for somebody or any group of people is be an example for yourself, and then be resourceful to inspire them to do for themselves.
Yeah, passing it over, learning, fixing yourself, trying to pass it over to the rest, and massive action. I love that statement. Great, Chris. Is it possible? Which one? So on the books that you have 3. You're gonna have the other one, but you have also the Art of Success that you're sharing with Jack Canfield. In this one, what is so there's some concepts that I see that they're similar with in terms of the other ones, right?
We just shared again some of the principles of emotional intelligence and overcoming self-limiting beliefs to really see again those challenges in any kind of business or whatever your quest for success is, because you can't have success unless you're able to embrace your challenges, to embrace your setbacks, your failures, your whatever that may be. It's all part of the process. When you resist them or try to go around them, you are resisting success.
Yeah. Okay. And now on the evolution of when you go about helping a company, because that's the other coin. How do you help them with? Do you go into sessions with them, or what's the process that you have? Obviously, there should be some discovery, and then you find what are the pains, and you action on them. You go in and out like a SWAT team. How's that process with them?
Well, everything I do is custom. I don't do anything cookie cutter. That being said, I work on 3 levels with organizations, whether if it's a small business to a small to mid-sized company. That's usually where I do things more, where I go from A to Z. When I'm working with a Fortune 500 company, I'm more or less doing training and some coaching on a business unit basis. With that being said, I mean, it could be anywhere where there's disengagement with their team. People are not communicating at a high level. There's more conflict than usual. There's low retention, or there's absenteeism, burnout. These would all be examples of an environment that is not embracing emotional intelligence. So I can come in and really revamp or enhance leadership development, communication strategy for higher engagement, all byproducts that will then increase productivity, efficiency, and of course, increase revenue in any business. I also get involved in helping them to recognize what systems and processes are not connecting the dots that can make them more efficient. Coming up with the right value proposition messaging, also a form of communication, really truly knowing your audience. A lot of people just assume what their audience wants. It's not exactly, unless you could substantiate it. So when you can align the right messaging to the challenge, the core common challenge that your audience has that can be better, the results they seek and don't have, not leading with features and benefits, you'll be now more compelling to them, build more rapport and trust to reduce the number of touch points for them to now work with you. That converts more sales, that will increase revenue. And when you're pricing it right, based upon the right messaging, people aren't buying into you based on the lowest price. They're buying based upon the value and how you can help solve their problems. So that's going to help increase revenue, or it's going to be profit, net profit, which is even more important than revenue, to raise your business valuation, giving you now more options to raise capital, whether if it's from a source like a bank, or if you're getting angel investors or VC money, whatever that may be. I also use that value proposition messaging strategy for creating valuable customer experiences, and then also finding better ways to create custom revenue and profit strategies that can increase the KPIs across any type of business. So I get involved in all of those 3 areas, because my job is to turn challenges, obstacles, and setbacks now into opportunities that lead to results. And then what could be the end result for a small business owner? Well, it might be the time they exit the business. And if they can exit now with a higher business valuation based upon all the things I discussed, well, there you go. They're going to be happy with that, rather than now selling the business for a fraction of what they could have gotten had they known these things that I've shared here today.
This is one of the models that it will be super hard to know exactly the ROI that you bring into a business with your expertise, but nevertheless, it should be like a massive, because otherwise you don't know.
It can be measured. There's no doubt that the only drawback with this, Louis, is the amount of time, because a lot of businesses don't want to wait. They want the results today. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing. So it doesn't exist. And stakeholders, again, they're going to want it today. It doesn't exist. This is a process. People, and the only way that it's going to happen is if people work on themselves first, individually, then as a team, then as an organization. If you don't treat it, if you don't see it as a process, nothing is going to change. You're going to put a Band-Aid on things. But I can tell you, when a company commits from the top down, from the CEO down, because I've done it before many times with other companies, Over a 3-year period, we've seen significant increases in KPIs at an individual, team, and organizational level. It can happen. It's not far-fetched. It's doable, but it's got to be a commitment. It doesn't happen overnight. It's got to happen over time, and you got to commit to the process. And that, and I can tell you, when those organizations that commit to that, and if you could keep it in your budget, keep it where it's not taking people out of their workday, and just dripping it over time, there's accountability there, there's stickability, and that's where you're going to see the results.
And with that, I would love to ask you if just some final remarks or final thoughts to some business owner that needs to take action, whether if it's in a personal level or their company level, probably what are the things that they need to look at to be able to realize, okay, yeah, maybe I need some help, maybe I need some coaching. What would you say to those people that might be on the fence or just dragging it, oh, maybe next year or whatever, and they just get so busy in the day-to-day life?
I would just say that no matter what your experience is, you have to be open-minded for new ideas and outside resources to help move your business forward. Numbers don't lie. And if you're comfortable where you are, great. Then keep doing what you're doing. If you're not comfortable where you are, or things are regressing, again, numbers don't lie. These are the very things that I shared with you, that when they're accustomed to your situation and then layered over time in a sequential order of addressing the issues, that's where you can see profound changes over time. So it's being open to new ideas, being open for resources that, while you might know about it, but allowing somebody else to help you so you can now focus on the things that you do best to now see the results. I find that organizations that commit to both, the personal and professional development in their businesses for themselves and their people are the ones long-term that see long-term success, better retention. So a lot of the issues they're constantly talking about, complaining about, pointing the finger about, and hiring people and losing people and spending tons of money on the back end, this can help it. And I'm going to tell you, there's no magic pill. There's no product that's going to make this, turn this around in a few days. You have to be part of your solution. So that's what I wanted to leave with your audience here.
I love that last message, and maybe just adding to the cherry on the cake there. Retention, you also mean retention on employees, but also the clients of your clients, right? Because if they have a better system and everything, they will not lose as many clients if they have churn. But at the same time, they are going to keep their employees happy because they're being trained and they're being leveraged and they're being leveled up. So on both sides, yeah.
Correct.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you, Chris. With that, we finish. I appreciate the time that you provided. And just to make sure, the books, you can see them here at the bottom of the description of the podcast. And obviously, Chris's website, if you want to reach out to him, I guess on the contact form, or maybe LinkedIn, you have a LinkedIn profile as well, so that they can connect with you. And with that, we thank you again. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Louis, for having me on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.